When I hear the term gentrification, I hear unfair practices, I think about money, I think about unfortunate circumstances for people. I think about people getting pushed out of their neighborhoods where they already live. I think about trends and gentrifiers coming into neighborhoods that they're not even aware of. I think of culture clashes. I think of the people who are suffering just trying to make ends meet. I think of disruption. When I hear racism, I just hear unjust practice, unjust treatment. I hear unfairness. I think about people who have been kept down by a system that's just been created by just because a group talks differently or looks differently. I think of my own family who's come over here from Ghana and the way they've been treated because of the way they sound and the way they look, and even though they may have degrees. And I think about me myself, even though I was born here, walking into a place where I'm the only one, and maybe someone trying to talk to me in a certain way because my last name sounds a certain way, or because I talk a certain way. And I think about all those people who have to fight to just represent themselves, have to work like twice as hard just to prove to white people that they matter and that they can work just as hard. Interesting. I think of white supremacy in kind of two ways. I guess from the Southern perspective of hatred and of power, that there's this history of white people, saying that they're better than everybody else, and not black and brown people, and Jewish and Catholic people, saying that just because they are white and their skin looks this way, that they are automatically better than someone. But I also think about white supremacy in terms of privilege, and I think about it more so here in New York, and especially in a place where people are fighting to live and work and act in a certain way, that there are people who don't have to think twice. White people who don't have to think twice about what they look like when they get out of bed and go to work, or white people don't have to think about what they look like when they go to the store, or like what they're doing, like maybe picking up an item. They don't have to like have those parents, the parents of white kids, like they don't have to have that talk with their kids. Whereas like me, as someone who's black, I had that talk when I was 12 years old, to keep your hands to yourself unless you're buying something. Make sure to say please and thank you, open doors. It's just these things that aren't talked about. That's what white supremacy is kind of about, that there's these underlying things that you don't have to ever talk about or even experience. I think the association between white supremacy and fear has to do with both those things, that it's the society we live in, but it also has to do with like the way things are. I mean, between like Freddie Gray and Trayvon Martin, all these young black boys and black women being killed for not even a lot of these times not even being armed, and just being killed by the police, and having those as examples that are in the news every single day, and showing you that in almost all these cases that these are white cops that are taking down black people. That's a teachable moment for any parent of a black or brown kid, that you have to watch out for yourself. That unfortunately this is the way the world is. We're getting closer to being more open with each other and working together, but like racism still exists really hard, and there's this system of white supremacy that's still there. It may not be as evident as the KKK, but it's still working its way. It's working its way through society in so many different ways. White supremacy, racism, and privilege are central tenets in gentrification. Yes, there is the class factor too, but especially here in New York City, where and even, I shouldn't even just say New York City, but just across the U.S. and the world, there are black and brown people who are tenants who are getting their heat and hot water turned off by their landlords because those landlords want to get them out and get in white people, many of these times, who can pay more to be in there. Gentrification also has a factor coming in through the government trying to restructure and revitalize these areas that are in need of services. That most of the time we're talking about places like Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights and Canarsie and East New York. So they're driving out, these landlords are driving out these people, and race is definitely that driving factor. I mean, it's just unfair. Have I been discriminated against because of my race in New York? If I have, I don't think I've known it. I outright felt it. A lot of the stuff I've done has just been, online, just corresponding with another person. I don't know if they're white or black. They might not know if I'm white or black or of any other race. And so my thought has been to be on the other side of just being nice and thinking, okay, if I get denied a place, it's because I just wasn't the right fit. And maybe they looked me up online, because you can just look me up online and say that I'm black. So if I had been discriminated against because of my race, I may not have known it, but it certainly might have happened. I'd like to think it's not the case, though. If I were to point the finger to an entity or a person in terms of gentrification and how it's happening, I can't point it to one person or one thing. I think it would be partly the people with money. So we're talking about these developers and these contractors who have the money to develop these really nice, huge apartments and jack up the rent and kick out the tenants who are already there, many of them who are black and brown. I blame them, but I also blame the government, because gentrification is not a new thing. It's just been given different names over the years. The government will promise that, in some cases will promise that we're going to revitalize this neighborhood and we're going to bring in affordable housing, but affordable for whom? And so you would think that the government would step in and stop these people with money from doing these unjust practices of hiking up rent $1,000 all of a sudden, or however much however much extra someone has to pay. But it doesn't seem to be the case all the time. Well, I live in Crown Heights. I've been there for 3 years. It's changed quite a bit. But given my status and where I live in Crown Heights, and in terms of affordability, I'd probably give myself maybe 2-3 more years. I have thought about moving elsewhere within Crown Heights or to another neighborhood, but to me, Crown Heights is where I want to live. I love the community. I picked it out because there are people who look just like me, people who I can relate to on that level, that there are other black and brown people there who I appreciate, who remind me a lot of my family. And so the fact that it's changing and there are a lot more white people coming in, I have some gripes with that, but at the same time, it's more of, I don't know if I want to afford more. I want to be able to plop down more money for what I'm already paying for, or what a place I'm already living in.